Hello again. Ayr United Football Club and University of the West of Scotland proudly present the Honest Podcast, the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth about Ayr United. Who have we had guest-wise so far? This is episode 3. So far we have had Conor McLennan.
Graham Matty.
We've had Graham Matty, Managing Director. Davy Smith, the Chairman.
Anton Dowds.
So obviously, standard-wise, we had to lift it a bit for this one. And we've got Mikey Devlin and Curtis Main with us. And I was actually just having a look at when your debut was, Curtis, and you two have barely played together, because that was the game, Mikey, that was your last appearance, and Curtis at Partick Thistle, that was your first appearance.
Yeah, it's been a bit frustrating, and even in the context of that game as well, I think just as Maino come on, Nick gets sent off.
Yeah.
So, like, coming into a game where we're 2-0 up and in a good position, I think it would have been good for Maino to come in his first game and like just transition into the team perfectly, and all of a sudden the dynamic of the game changes. We're one up front, we're sitting in, we're trying to defend, so we didn't quite get to see the best of Maino that day either, but since that point we've not been on a pitch together at all, so it's been frustrating.
Was that a great feeling coming on and you're down to 10 men, Curtis?
Just what I asked for, yeah. But no, like you said, obviously we've not been able to play together since then, which is obviously frustrating for both of us and the rest of the team, so hopefully that resolves itself quickly.
Can you pull that microphone in a bit closer, or just go a bit closer to it? Because if you say something really good, we want to hear it big time.
Okay. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff.
When we chatted a few weeks ago, we were just talking about the importance of getting goals early on. I mean, obviously, every striker, there's more to your game than just goals, but equally, that matters, doesn't it, to get off the mark? And you did it in pretty spectacular style with 4 in a week.
Yeah, obviously, kind of asked for much more than that. Like I say, it was a frustrating start first couple of games, the way the games went. But then, since the Edgery game, when I managed to get a couple, and then obviously the midweek 3-2 turnaround, getting the winner there, and then following Saturday, again scoring. Personally, delighted to be putting the ball in the back of the net, which is what I came to do. Going to need a lot more of that from now until the rest of the season to help the team push for what we're aiming for.
How quickly, when you go to a new club, you arrived on loan in January, how quickly does it become we and us, and how quickly do you feel part of it?
Well, firstly, I'm not on loan, I'm saying.
Okay, good point.
So I'll be back here next year, unfortunately for you.
When you signed that 18-month deal in January, which obviously wasn't a loan, we'll sort that out for the edit.
Yeah.
How quickly do you become? How quickly does it stop being a new club and you're just very much part of it?
It probably differs for teams and personnel, but in terms of me coming into this dressing room, didn't take long at all. Obviously, knew a few boys, Mikey included, from previous clubs and different experiences, but since I come in, it didn't take long at all. It always helps when you get into the team and you start, showing why you're here. But in general, it wasn't long at all.
I should say that it's Rob McLean asking the inaccurate questions, and it's Niall Kavanagh alongside me. All yours are going to be spot on, Niall.
So I'll come to you, Mikey. First of all, how are you getting on with the injury?
It's been a frustrating few weeks, to say the least. I think we kind of thought it was maybe something else that wasn't too damaging that we could recover from pretty quickly, but unfortunately kind of dragged on a little bit longer, and we now know I've got a bit of damage to one of the ligaments in my foot, and that's going to take a couple of weeks probably to fully heal and recover. So it feels like there's a little bit of time wasted really in getting to the bottom of it, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. So we did what we thought was best at the time to try and get myself back, and as quickly and as efficiently as possible, and it's just not played out that way. So it's been a bit stop-start and frustrating, but hopefully we're on the right track now.
The injury came at a really bad time. Do you think that makes it worse, that you went out injured when the team just went top of the league?
Maybe selfishly to a degree, but we're all here for the same thing and we all want the same goal, so it's not really about the individual within that. And I think that maybe stepping out at that point, we just beat Hamilton to go top of the league. We all felt that we were in a real good place. the squad was really strong. I think with a good window, and even touching on what Maino was saying there, you know, when you see someone like Curtis walk through the door, the lift that gives to the rest of the changing room and the team, thinking what we're going for here, and the run in towards the end of the season, like, that's huge for the changing room. So not necessarily, I think you're disappointed to miss playing football, and I've missed a lot of football over my career, but at the same point in time the team were in a good place, and you've got every faith that whoever steps into your shoes or whoever else is going to play is going to be good enough to get the job done.
Do you hate speaking about injuries, Mikey?
I think I've got better at it. I used to really struggle with it, but that was probably my own stuff to work through.
Fully qualified now.
Yeah.
The mental side of it?
Yeah, it's been tough. Peaks and troughs, and learning about how to navigate certain situations, long-term injuries, patterns of behaviour. So many different aspects to it.
You could write a book.
Yeah, there's a lot, and a lot of lessons have been learned in it, and I think understanding the impact that it has on your mental well-being is big, and it comes at a cost. And that wasn't something I particularly enjoyed, but I feel I'm fortunate now that not only do I know how to help myself in moments like that, and albeit this isn't this big an injury, but you know, it could resurface similar or familiar feelings and emotions at that time, where sometimes it does feel a bit all too familiar. But I think also, irrespective of what's happening with me, I think now maybe I've got a bit more of an insight into what it can do to other people, and I'm maybe a little bit more aware of that in others, so I try where possible to help other people, and that's been a real positive to the overall kind of trajectory of how my career's been.
Have you suffered much in the way of injury, Curtis?
Yeah, just touching on what Mikey says there, I think more needs to be done. We need to, you know, divert more, certainly, resource and time to develop players in that way, because it's part of any professional sport. Injuries, it comes with it. I don't know a player that's gone through his whole career without getting an injury, and the way you deal with that, particularly mentally, is something that nobody knows how to do. You kind of find your own way from a personal experience, and some are more unfortunate than others with injuries. And like Mikey touched on there, he's had to deal with that in his own way and develop, and now, like he's just said, he's in a far better place to deal with it. But from my own perspective, I've had similar times where you've struggled with long-term injuries or even niggles and setbacks where you feel like you're getting going, and then the brakes upon again, and you're back to square one almost. And mentally, it's a big challenge. It's probably it's one of the hardest things of being a professional athlete, is how you deal with those challenges and those setbacks when they prevent you from what you're actually trying to achieve.
So is it not a big enough priority? Is the balance between the physical and the mental? Does the pendulum need to swing a little bit in that respect in football clubs?
Yeah, and just with those two things, definitely the balance is, it's not correct. But not just to do with injuries. I just think in general the mental health side of things is far too overlooked, and something we need to work on.
It's one and the same. It's two sides, or two different sides of the same coin. Like, until we understand that there's a direct correlation between the mind and the body, and that's like
health and fitness and well-being,
yeah,
they're all wrapped up together. Yeah,
we know almost subconsciously that they're connected, because we see so much evidence of that in other aspects of life. But until we make that connection as professional athletes as well, that even something so similar or so simple as in trying to rehab, when you're going through that, if your mind's not in the right place, it has a physical detriment to you, literally. So I think we have both come through academy systems, at different places, but we've been through this full journey, our full careers, and so much emphasis is placed on things like what you need to do to be a good professional, how you need to make the next step, your attitude, your application, your endeavour, your ability to learn, your will to learn, all these things. But are you ever really taught the tools to cope with the adversity and the disappointment and the struggles that come? And a big part of that's injury, naturally, because we play in such a physically demanding sport. And really, like Curtis said, I think often you're left to your own devices in terms of trying to figure out how to navigate those situations, and we get that wrong a lot. And the person or the people that suffer are often you as an individual, but then the people around about you as well. And I think once we start to understand that, and we understand the importance of that and how that plays a role within each and every individual that's within the sport, then we'll start to make strides. But too often, I agree with Curtis, not enough resource, time and effort and understanding is put towards that aspect of the game.
So Curtis, I'm going to ask you, so you've started 3 of the last 4 games. Would you say that you're fully up to speed now as a United player, or would you say to the fans that you've still got a wee bit more to offer?
Well, I think you'd always aim to be given more. So from week to week, we're always trying to improve. And certainly from the last performance as an individual and as a team, we've definitely got a level of performance to raise. Looking ahead to Saturday, which is something we're working hard this week to make sure that that's done. But in general, I feel like I'm in a good place, and I'm just starting to sort of hit my stride. So hopefully, I can keep that going.
So that leads to the next question. So obviously the last 2 games have unfortunately ended in defeat for us. What are you and the boys doing this week to make sure that we do get 3 points on Saturday?
To be honest, this week we're back to basics in terms of you do the fundamental things that win your football matches, which is you outwork your opponent. You battle and fight, and you have the desire and the determination to win your own individual battle, and then collectively you come out on top. And I think over the last couple of weeks, I think it's fair to say that's not been done consistently enough to get 3 points in both games. Little spells in certainly the Greenock game, but then last week, nowhere near enough. So that as a start point, that's where it's at.
There was that great run of results, wasn't there, between the East Kilbride Cup defeat and then the Hibs Cup defeat, which, although it was a defeat, it was a fantastic performance. And the only defeat, I think, in that time was at Firhill against Partick Thistle, and there was a pretty bad refereeing decision, which had something to play in that. So there was real momentum at that stage. Is it difficult when you get derailed with a couple of back-to-back defeats, and you're basically looking to get back on the momentum swing again?
It can be, but I also think you call upon that kind of past experience, you're recognising that we've been in a sticky spot before. Do you know what I mean? We went to East Kilbride fully expecting to win that game and lost the game 3-2, and performance levels on the night weren't what they should have been. So off the back of that, you were able to turn it. We tweaked a couple of things in terms of system and setup, and that really benefited us moving forward. And we taking a game at a time. We tried to win the next game. Everybody that was in the team was trying to stay in the team for the next week, so the performance level had to be as close to their best as possible. And through that, you then put a run of results together and performances. And if, like Meno said there, if you get the aspect of the performance right, more often than not, we feel with the level of player that we've got in our team, then the results will then follow. So it's difficult just now that maybe we're not in the best place, but we've got a manager and staff who will do and look at every single thing they can possibly look at as to the reason why. And in doing that, I think, like Meno said, you go back to basics to a degree, and you make sure that you do your job. Each individual within the pitch does their job to the best of their ability and does the fundamentals of the game, and then from that gives you the platform to then continue to grow and progress within each game.
Does the atmosphere, Curtis, feel a bit different at the moment because we're down at the business end of the season and every match is absolutely crucial in terms of trying to catch Falkirk, if that's possible, for the automatic promotion spot? Or if you don't make that, you want to be second, don't you? Because then the playoffs could become that little bit easier.
Yeah, of course. I think everyone's, obviously me coming in January, my sort of mindset and mentality around each game hasn't changed. Maybe it may feel different for the boys who've played the full season, but since I've walked in the door, I've had the same objective for every game, is to get 3 points and see where it takes you. We know now that, like you said, the business end of the season, those 3 points can mean a little bit more in terms of if other teams drop points or they don't. And we've put ourselves in a situation now where, we are scrapping and fighting for every single point because we're going to need them. It's going to be tight, and we know there's going to be challenges in the last sort of round of games, and that's for us and every team. Every team will make mistakes, and every team will drop points from now until the end of the season, almost certainly. So I think, like we say, we strip it back and we go back to basics and focus on each game as it comes and make sure everyone's ready to take 3 points. No matter what it takes, we need to do exactly what it takes to take 3 points.
And you probably look for a favour or two, but that's realistic, isn't it, in the Championship, because it's such a small league, it's such a competitive league, that even teams that aren't competing at the top end still are desperate for points to try and claw themselves away from the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. It's competitive right to the very death, and we've unfortunately been on the wrong side of that the last few weeks. Like teams that, well due respect, we felt our our mission was bigger than theirs at the time in terms of we knew what we were working towards. We had to win the game, but still on the day, the game can go an entirely different way and you don't get the result you want. So I think first and foremost we focus on what we can, but we also understand that it's such a volatile league that anybody in any day can go and pick up points and go and win, and providing you're doing your job, you get the option of capitalising on that when and if it happens.
Mikey, I must ask you a bit of a curveball here, but your Scotland career, do you mind if I ask you about that?
No, not
is that
at all.
Right? How proud of a moment is it when you get a call-up?
Like hugely proud. Probably something that, you know, I think as a young boy in Scotland, you would love to do it, but to be honest, I'm not sure I ever thought I would. And that's not because I didn't believe I necessarily wasn't capable of it. I think you're realistic about where you are and what level you're playing at and all the rest of it. So then when that time came that there was maybe talk of it, there was still part of me was like, I'm not sure that the call's ever going to come or whatever it may be. So when it happens and you get that, you know, brought into the squad, it's an amazing kind of feeling. But at the same point in time, you're also understanding that you're there to, you're not a fan there. You're there to like train and do well and try and get the team, etc., and make sure that the country gets the best results. So it becomes very much you're there to do a job, and it can come and bypass you really, really quickly. But the full experience was incredible. Maybe it's something I look back on and wish I'd taken more in at the time, particularly in the games that I played. I wish I hadn't treated it like almost like a club game for my team, and actually really valued what I was doing or what I'd just done. But I think that's the mindset that you're in, and it's also probably, might tell you different, but it's probably the mindset you need to have as a footballer, where you don't dwell too much on whatever's happening at that moment in time, get too up or too down about anything, because the next thing's coming, the next game's coming. It's maybe only with hindsight you look back and think, yeah, like, really proud that I got to do that.
Because that's such an emotional moment, isn't it? That you kind of want to be taking a mental snapshot for forevermore. But that's easier said than done, as you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I probably got a little bit more of a chance. The first game I played was in Russia, so my family weren't at the game. It was kind of too short notice, and I think they had to get visas and stuff. So anyway, they weren't there. But the second game at Hampden, you know, when we were kind of singing the national anthem, I could see my mum and dad in the crowd with my brother and sister, and them all being there meant the world to me that they got this opportunity to see this play out. You know, like their son or brother standing there singing the national anthem before playing for Scotland. Like, that was an incredible moment. And I think at that point, like, there was a lot bit of me thinking, but at the same point in time, the national team, and I mean this simultaneously, the national team wasn't in a good place at the time. We just lost 4-0 to Russia. We're now playing San Marino, who I think were ranked the worst team, more or less, in the world. And I felt like that was a far more nerve-wracking experience than playing against Russia, because it felt like the expectation was huge on that game. And I also had this idea in my head that if this doesn't go well, you'll be part of the team that lost to San Marino or didn't win against San Marino. So it was like this momentary appreciation of what you're doing, but still being riddled with fear that it doesn't go the way that you need it to go. And fortunately it did go, and it's only then with hindsight you look back and think, like, amazing. But that's like football, like, do you know what I mean? It's that constant need for it to go the way you need it to go, and then you move on to the next thing.
Yeah, exactly that. You never stand still.
Yeah,
you get you get one great result, even if you take it all the way to the end of the season and you win a trophy. You ask any manager, I'm sure next day he's thinking, right, what's next? How am I preparing my team for if I've been promoted? How do I achieve success? Or, you know, how do I survive in the next league? Or if it's, you know, you're at the very top, then it's like, hey, how do I do it again? How do I repeat it? I don't think it ever stops, and that's all the way up. It's players, coaches, managers. It's just one of those environments where it just never stands still, and you're always thinking about what's next, which is, it's actually a shame, because you don't, like you just say, you don't really get to appreciate anything for any period of time. You just kind of go through it, experience it, accept it, and park it, and you move on. And you just look forward to the next thing. Maybe we should look to try and indulge a little bit more in the highs, rather than, you know, focusing more on the lows, because there's certainly more of them in football than there is highs. So yeah, maybe that's something we need to do better.
Yeah. But I think even just on that, like, it's such a good and a bad thing, that approach to it, because see, when things haven't went well for a game, for example, you've lost a game, and it feels like, right, we've blew it here,
and you've got another one round the corner.
There's another one coming, right? So you have this next opportunity to then, like, make it better or put it right. But then the flip side of that is, if you go and win a game, play really well, and the team does well, and you do well within that, you dare not get too carried away with that, because football's got a real habit of putting you in the backside 5 or 6 days later when you go and play the next game. So like it's this constant like demand of just trying to beat your best all the time, not getting too up or not too down, and then working through that. And like we all talk about it, that your career and season on season and then your career can come and go so quickly, but it's probably through being in that mindset to help you perform at your best that passes it so quickly. So there's good and bad bits to both, but like Curtis said, the highs probably don't necessarily outweigh the lows as much in football, or certainly maybe to the outside looking in, it doesn't feel that way anyway.
Mikey mentioned that word expectation. Curtis, do you think there's, because of the way Ayr have performed this season, getting into that challenging position, still in contention to win the title, and a certainty you would imagine for the playoffs? But do you feel that pressure of having to deliver? All the foundations have been laid, but in the next few weeks it'll all be sorted one way or another.
Yeah, no, I think from my point of view, coming into the club, I definitely felt the energy of how the season's gone so far, and again, expectation, like you mentioned. The fans are obviously in a pretty good place in terms of how they've seen the team perform and picking up the results in the position that we're in. And I think as that expectation builds and builds as the season goes on, that also intensifies within the club itself. So it's our job to manage expectations. We know what we want to do, what we want to try and achieve. But I think, again, with not getting too carried away with anything external, it's just laser focus. That's normally how football clubs operate. You never get carried away with outside noise or any distractions. It's all about being switched on and being focused. Like it's the same thing. It's just a repeat pattern. It's just you're constantly going and going and going. There's no real time to reflect on anything else. It's just kind of, you've got a job to do, and everyone just comes in day after day and does it and works towards trying to execute the job to the best of their ability.
Is it exciting?
Yeah, definitely. That's what you want to play in teams, and you want to be part of things where there's actually something to play for. You want the challenge, you want the excitement, you want the expectation, or certainly I do. I enjoy it. It stirs something in you when you're playing in these games where there's something on the line, rather than just, you're playing for 3 points, but there's nothing coming up at the end. If you're champion, or if you're going for playoffs or something like this, then it gives you that extra fuel, and there's something on the line. So it gives it a little extra touch.
So Curtis, I must ask you, so in your last 3 starts in the league, you've started up front beside George Oakley. What's your relationship like with him on and off the pitch?
Yeah, since I've come in, George has been brand new, to be honest. He's been spot on. Sometimes I've been in a position where direct competitors come into your dressing room and people can be different ways about these things, but he's been spot on, and really enjoyed coming in and working with him. I think it's just a case of me and him trying to build a relationship and getting used to playing, and I don't think the team's necessarily played with the dynamic that me and him offer. So me and him trying to understand each other, and then the rest of the team also trying to adapt to that as well, is something that we're trying to work on day in, day out, so that we can get the best out of both of us.
Mikey, how are you viewing it at the moment, in terms of the catching of Falkirk, which some might see as mission impossible at the moment, and the playoff, the drama of the playoffs potentially just around the corner?
Well, I think we know it'll be difficult, and it's not in our hands anymore. However, kind of like Curtis was saying, like we've got our own stuff to sort just now. Performance level and results haven't quite been where we would like them to be, so focus on that. And I have got no doubt at all, Rob, that if we do that, we'll win games, and we'll win more than we certainly don't. And by doing that, you give yourself an opportunity to capitalise on Falkirk slipping up. So it's not been exactly what we would have wanted in the last few weeks, and obviously that gap's opened up at the top, but that in no way, shape or forms means we will turn our attention to other things. We'll continue to keep doing what we've been trying to do all season, and at the very minimum, with the object of being in the playoffs in whatever position we're in, like firing fully with our best players on the pitch, ready to win and take on that challenge.
How does Scott Brown, Curtis, react to when things go wrong, these back-to-back defeats? He's pretty open and honest when in his interviews, and he's probably telling us what he's telling you. But also I also get the impression, having been around the club for a while, that it's all in. It's not him ranting and raving at you guys. It's the players giving their explanation, version, and way of improving.
Yeah, I mean, there's times where ranting and raving is necessary, or certainly feels like it for.
So there is still a wee bit of that, yeah.
I think there's up and down the country. That's never going to disappear. But no, I've certainly been, absorbing the way he is coming into the club, and just another manager that I'm working under and learning from. I think he's shown quite good experience in terms of the way he's handled certain situations. Obviously, we just mentioned there, things haven't gone how we wanted them to go the last couple of weeks, and that gap has opened up and it's put us in a more challenging position. But his response and reaction to that is, as I touched on earlier, is, right, what do we need to do to fix the current situation and improve, so that when it comes to that, like we've touched on, the business end, and maybe if it's the playoffs or, managing to go up automatically, how can we get to a point where we can deliver our best to achieve that? And it's more of a, rather than a rant and a rave, it's how can we figure this out? We're thinking, right, what's gone wrong? Mikey touched on it, the staff will analyse everything, see what's went wrong, and how we can fix it, what we can work on and improve, so that we can get back to delivering our best. Management for you, Mikey, somewhere down the line? Fancy it?
Maybe. I think throughout my career it was always something I'd done interest in, and I've had the fortunate opportunity to do a little bit with here as well, in terms of a little bit of coaching and one-to-one stuff. So it's something I'm open to, but I also see the strain and stress that managers live under as well. So
yeah. You could just extend your sports scene career and just sit on the couch and criticise other people.
Criticise other players, exactly. No have to take any responsibility.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much, you two.
Thank you.
It's been good to have you on the podcast. Some really interesting chat there, actually. Particularly that discussion about physical, mental health and everything, which is something that we probably all need to be looking into a lot more than we do at the moment. So that is it for episode 3 of the Honest podcast from Ayr United Football Club, University of the West of Scotland. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we will talk to you soon.